hell, why are those goblins shooting fireballs at me? Oh no, oh no, oh, hey, it's your friendly neighborhood potato witch. Welcome to the show. Metroidvanias. I'm not that great at them. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy them. I enjoy the challenge, I enjoy the style, and just because you won't see me speedrunning one anytime soon, doesn't mean I can't enjoy such games in my own inept way. Especially when there are adorable ones such as Witchcrafty. Now, quick disclaimer here, I was given a complimentary copy of the game by the dev in exchange for a review, and I appreciate that a lot. That said, how I got the game doesn't influence my opinions of it. I always try to be honest in my reviews, especially when the game involves witches. As the Potato Witch, I take it as a solemn responsibility to play witchy games and give my proper honest opinion of them. Anyway, on with the show! Now, you wouldn't expect a game with a name like Witchcrafty to be a Metroidvania. You might expect something similar to Little Witch in the Woods. Something with crafting elements, magic to solve puzzles, you know, something chill and relaxed and adorable. Well, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. So, Witchcrafty is an indie game developed and published by PigeonDev and released at some point. Honestly, I apologize for not knowing the release date, but the date on Keymailer is October 13th, 2022. The release date on Steam says March 1st, 2022, but apparently it also released on the PlayStation Vita in mid-2021, so this game definitely had a release date. Yep, let's just go with that. Now, I can't say how much the game might have changed between its release on the Vita and its release on Steam, PS4/PS5, and Nintendo Switch, since I didn't play the original game. I do see on Metacritic that it didn't exactly have the highest review scores, but the rating on Steam is mostly positive, so I can assume that some adjustments got made between then and now. Anyway, Witchcrafty. It is indeed an adorable Metroidvania, where you play as a little witch named... Actually, I don't know what she's named. I don't think it ever really gets said in the game. So, the adorable little witch wakes up, finds out that, due to staying up too late drinking with satyrs the previous night, she slept through a goblin attack on her village. Turns out there's a weird corruption in the forest, making things aggressive, and it's up to our little witch friend to find out what's going on and fix the problem before it gets out of hand. I will say that one of the first things I noticed about Witchcrafty, aside from how cute it is that the English is rather stilted, and in some places it's very obvious that it was written by someone who isn't a native fluent English speaker. I mean, it's comprehensible, you definitely understand what was being said even if the word choice or grammar wasn't technically correct, so it's not like the language barrier is a major obstacle to gameplay, but it is a noticeable thing. And honestly, I don't understand why more game devs, when their game is in English but English is their secondary language, don't run their game's text by an editor or proofreader who can help them clear up those issues before anyone else notices. And I'm not just saying that because I literally do that on a freelance level, it's something that's bothered me about game development for a long time. A game can be a solid experience, but weirdly, if there are language issues, it can make the game look like it was a low-effort affair, even if it wasn't. Doesn't it just make sense to ensure that your game is as polished as it can be before releasing it? Bah, like I said, it doesn't really affect how the game plays. Really, you could ignore every story beat in the game and just press on through the dungeons, appreciating the gameplay instead of the story. That's fine. The awkward language is just something that bugged me, and I felt it worth pointing out because it's a problem that doesn't really need to exist. So, what's the gameplay like, anyway? Honestly, pretty decent. It's fairly simple as far as Metroidvanias go, but all the basic elements are there. Platforming, backtracking, dying to enemies and respawning at the last checkpoint and hoping you don't die in the same place again. You know, the whole package. You explore the forest, using magic to defend yourself against the aggressive creatures that have started spawning lately, making your way to other locations in your search for answers. Because you're a witch, you do have magic powers to employ in your journey. As you explore, you'll find new elemental spells to use and upgrades for your older spells, which you can switch out and use as the situation calls for it. This is, understandably, where a lot of the backtracking comes in. There are a number of barriers that can only be removed by use of certain elemental spells, so for instance when you get your lightning spell, you can go back to one of the earlier areas and break down a barrier that wouldn't budge to your initial fire spell. Honestly, this is one of my favorite aspects of the whole Metroidvania genre, since I love exploring and filling in maps in video games, so not only is it great to get what I need to continue advancing in the game, but it's also so satisfying to backtrack and see what new things can be unlocked when I get a new spell. But also because I'm me, I managed to break the game within the first 10 minutes of frickin' playing it. Seriously, I respawned at a save point after dying, only I didn't? I was invisible, I couldn't move, and while I could open the menu, it was basically all 3 of the menu pages just overlapping. I couldn't really do anything except restart the game and hope I didn't magically screw things up again. So the game definitely isn't without glitches, though in fairness this was the only one I encountered while playing. I did have some other issues though, such as the controller buttons not being super responsive when I pressed them, but that could also be due to an older controller. Sometimes hitboxes got a little wonky, but not always, so maybe it was just me? But I did notice other reviews pointing out similar issues, and that's also why I'm mentioning it here. It may well have just been me. Bad timing on my part, an older controller making things worse than they otherwise might have been, but it's also possible that the problem exists within the game itself. Honestly, this is why I check other reviews while writing scripts for a lot of my videos. It's easy to handwave some things as, oh, maybe I'm the problem, maybe I just got unlucky with some things, when you have no context outside of your own individual experience. But when you see that others experience similar issues, then it becomes much more likely that the problems aren't just isolated incidents, and are things that might be worth considering for those who are looking into whether buying the game might be worth it for them. I will admit that the game can be a bit limiting early on when it comes to health and magic. At first, you can literally only fire off 2 fireball spells before your magic is depleted, which means that if you're looking to use magic in boss fights, good frickin' luck. Yeah, you have your regular attacks, which are still magic, I guess, but don't take up any of your magic power, so to speak. But those elemental spells? Nah, you only get a few of those. Magic power gets refilled at fountains, which you can find at various points on the map, so there is that. But again, when it comes to things like boss fights, you can't just go in there and spam your most effective attack. You have to figure out other ways. Which is also tough because in the beginning, you get 4 hits and you're dead. You can refill 1 heart of life by picking up little flowers, but even this mechanic is a little... Okay, so you don't actually pick those flowers manually. It's an automatic thing when you walk over them. And they don't respawn, at least from what I can tell. So if you're down 1 heart of health and don't notice that flower right in front of you, you walk over it and get that bit of life back, but now your healing opportunity is gone. It's not coming back, and maybe you didn't even want to heal right then because you thought you'd be fine and wanted to save your little healing flowers until you had greater need for them. This mechanic doesn't really get explained either, at least not that I recall. You just kind of figure it out as you go. You do get opportunities to increase your health and magic, which is good because holy crap, trying to get through the game with minimal stats is a challenge I don't feel like attempting right now. But yeah, there are artifacts that you can collect that will increase those stats. Shards of the Forest Heart will increase your health if you get 4 of them. Get 4 shards of the Witch Soul to increase your magic. Sounds easy enough, yeah? Well, a lot of those items are hidden in optional areas that you'll probably need to backtrack for, or else have trickier puzzle elements that you'll need to manage. There are a few of each that you can collect before you even get this explanation, so I initially viewed them as collectibles that were just collectibles. Required for 100% completion, but I probably don't need to worry about them, no big deal. Until I get that explanation in the game's second zone, and I facepalmed because now I had to backtrack when I really didn't want to. And because save points aren't exactly plentiful, I risked getting unlucky and dying and respawning with no penalty except losing all my progress up to that point. Well, not all of it. Story elements and cutscenes that already played out won't play again, so the game does save that when you die. You're not sitting through the same cutscenes 15 times because you keep running into a problem area, but you do lose any shards you collected, as well as the little gems you've likely been collecting along the way. Which the game also doesn't really explain until you encounter that shop that explains the shards. They're just things you collect. You'd be forgiven for initially thinking that they were one of the common collect 100 and gain something elements that many games employ. But no, they're basically money, and you can spend them at shops to buy items such as those shards. They're not exactly hard to farm either. Leave a screen and come back and everything has respawned. Kill enemies, grab a few floating gems, and just go back and forth between 2 screens, doing that until you have enough gems to buy what you need. It'll take a while, but it's easy to do. Honestly, and I hate to say this, but Witchcrafty's biggest strengths are its adorable pixel graphics and its potential. It has a number of areas where it could be improved. They're not terrible game-breaking things, aside from that time I respawned as a non-existent thing, but they are aspects that keep the game from reaching the heights that it theoretically could. It's not a bad game, but it is a game that could use some more polishing and tweaking. Better balancing of save points, better explanation of some of the game mechanics. It's cute as hell, but that cuteness can't carry the game. Not when it's clearly attempting to be something more than just a demonstration of cute pixel art. I see a lot of potential for Witchcrafty to improve, and I really hope that it does so. I'd love for this review to be outdated after a few months because the issues that bothered both myself and a number of other players are just no longer in the game. That would be awesome. But as it is, I mean, it's a cute game, and it'll only take a couple of hours to beat. So if you think that it's worth $10 for that experience, then go for it. Honestly, the price isn't too terrible, and it doesn't feel like the devs are overreaching by asking too much for what they're delivering. So I can respect that. But cute as I found it, and as much potential as I can see for its future, that potential will only be realized if the devs take constructive criticism and address those issues. I can't exactly recommend a game very highly when half of its strength lies in what it could be rather than what it is. I mean, I didn't hate it. I did have fun with it. It's not a bad game, as I said. It's got some good stuff going for it, and even if it's a short game and isn't the most complex Metroidvania out there, sometimes a short, straightforward game is nice. It doesn't have to be super complex or take 15 hours to beat in order to be an enjoyable experience. So there's also that. But do I recommend it in its current state? Only partly. And I think mostly only for people who enjoy cute aesthetics in games and who are fairly casual Metroidvania fans. People who expect something like, well, either of the games the Metroidvania genre was named after are gonna be a bit disappointed here. But it's fine enough if you appreciate the genre on a more casual level like I do. So buyer beware, I guess? It might be better to hold off on this one until a couple of issues have gotten smoothed over. Then you'll all be able to best appreciate the cute and quirky style of this witchy little platformer. And anything that involves talking cats has inherent entertainment value. That's just science.